Hello and welcome to day 4 of the Fearless 30 Challenge. 30 days of being willing to step up and be vulnerable, visible, and of value. So, this challenge is really just about sharing something that I truly believe in, something that's really important to me, that resonates with me deeply. And I want to share my views on it and my feelings about it, and really just that personal experience of putting myself out there, because I do believe that I have some amazing gifts to share with the world. And this is my way of stretching myself a little bit, putting myself in that little bit of a discomfort of just being real about how I view certain issues. And so I would like to invite you, if this calls to you, if you are someone who feels that there are some really important issues that you'd like to share with the world, to join me for this Fearless 30 challenge, to put yourself out there, to share. And if you are participating, pop a link below. I'd love to come and support you and cheer you on in this journey. Otherwise, just follow along in mine. So the prompt for today is sharing with you my superpower. Now, throughout the years, this has always been a quite an interesting thing for me to figure out, like, what are my unique talents. I always felt like I did feel different since I was young. Always felt a little like I didn't really fit in anywhere, and like I was misunderstood, and like I feel like a lot of us might feel that way, but I didn't feel like I fitted in anyway, even though I had lots of different friends throughout the years, friendship circles. I just never really felt like I belonged anywhere specifically. And yeah, just the way that I experience things, I remember from a young age being able to read people and their energy and feel that what they were putting on the surface, what they were saying and doing, was different than the energy that I was picking up underneath. So I just had this gift of being able to distinguish when something was sort of the truth or real or not. But then I would be told, no, that's not what it is. So I sort of got conditioned that that's not true. And so it's interesting that I had these two major life events where the truth was revealed, that I realized I was being lied to or manipulated, or the part of the truth being hidden from me. And so it's part of my lesson of understanding that my intuition, my feeling, my knowing, my inner knowing was actually right, and it's something that I've needed to learn to trust. So through this process of really wanting to get to know myself, because it's been this absolute drive, when I did my degree in industrial and organizational psychology, because according to my uncle at the time, when I was still figuring out what I wanted to do with my life, because I'll share a little bit of my story. I actually studied to become a ballet teacher, so I did a year of that, and then realized it's going to be a little hard to make an income, a really good living from that. Although one of my other friends went on and had a really successful ballet school. For me, I feel like I was always meant to be in the business world, and so he told me that an industrial psychologist is like a doctor for a business. And the three things I wanted to become when I was little was, I wanted to become a doctor, a psychologist, and a lawyer. And I ended up actually finding a job that had all three of these sort of rolled into one. So I became a fiduciary specialist, which is someone who does estate planning, wills, and trusts. And so when I pull together somebody's holistic view, everything that they do in my corporate career, I had to be a little bit of a psychologist. I had to understand the family dynamics, how people think about what's important to them, especially when I was working with entrepreneurs, like what really drives them, what's important to them, and then plan out and pull these structures together that really speaks to the heart of what was important for them. And it's in the legal field, so I had to have a really good understanding of tax and the legal side of putting together these legal contracts and agreements and the wills, as you can imagine. The doctor side, a little different, yes, on a business side. So I went into management. I went on to become national manager of two of the top financial institutions in South Africa. And for that, I feel you do need to have a little bit of that, just people understanding. And I then became, and when I became a mom in 2014, I really started going into the actually a little bit before that. When I reversed, I had a really serious health condition that I was diagnosed with in 2012. And I was told that I needed to be finished with babies by the age of 34 or 35, because the doctor wanted to put me on some serious meds that would then prevent me from having children. So at the time I was single, so it was a little bit of like a shocking thing to hear, because I didn't even have someone. And here I was meant to well, I was 31, yeah. So I literally had like 4 years left to get all of this done, find a man, marry, have babies. Which I did, by the way. I managed to find a man and have 2 babies before I was 35. And it just all happened really beautifully. And maybe on another day I'll share the full story around that. But the point is, I met an amazing holistic healer and coach, Janine Shapiro, whom I thanked in my day 2 of gratitude. She helped me to reverse this condition, which the doctor said couldn't be reversed because it was a genetic condition. Had me on a cocktail of cortisone and all kinds of other things. And through the use of, well, we looked at my diet, we looked at some really good supplements. I started taking the Manatech supplements, and also she did the emotional healing work with me. So we looked at what was underneath the patterns, because those things start showing up in our bodies. And so we reversed this condition. I had 2 really healthy, wonderful, intelligent children, the most amazing beings in my view in this world. And I was in a really good health position. And from there, started learning more and more about natural health. I did go through an immense amount of stress from the point that I had these babies, because they were very close together. Number 2 was a little bit of a surprise package. So they were 18 months up and 19 months apart. And so it took a real toll on my business, on my body. And then I also decided to start my own business while these 2 were little and still breastfeeding and in nappies. And it felt like having twins, because they were both doing these things together. And I really went the full out natural route. I breastfed them until they were 2 years old. I did kangaroo care. We did baby-led weaning. And I just wanted to give these children the best foundational blocks in their life. Until today, I can say, thankfully, at 7 and 9, my children have never had to take antibiotics. They've never been in hospital. They're really actually doing so well with the foundational blocks that we put in place. There were some other things as well, but just suffice to say, I feel like the natural approach did give them that good start in life. And so I continue to research the natural health and healing. And so it's something that I've always been interested in. So when you come and visit me, you'll find a cupboard full of herbal teas from the bottom up to the roof. So I'm really into my herbal teas. I understand the properties. I'm researching, constantly learning about the natural properties, how to heal myself and my children when we are sick, when our immune systems are under attack, how to look after that. And so anyway, this is a long way around to basically say that I got all 3 of those things that I wanted to become. So I always joke with my daughter, when she says, when are you going to take me to the doctor? And then I'm like, well, I'm the doctor. Like I can heal you with these natural remedies. It's only really recently she had a bit of tonsillitis. And so then we went to the homeopath to get some natural remedies to support her system. So the bottom line that I wanted to say is, throughout the years, whenever I would put my focus on a goal, I would manage to achieve it. And part of that is then realizing that I actually had this focus goal. And I want to give a huge shout out to Melanie Pledger from DNA Light Up, because when she did DNA Light Up with me a couple of years ago, one of the things that she helped me to realize is my superpower of focus. And then when I studied the modality of human design, I realized, that it's actually in my chart. So human design is a body of self-knowledge. Very holistic. It takes a whole bunch of different modalities. I've always been very interested in personality profiling. So I've done Enneagrams and disc profiling and 16 personalities and all of these different ones. And human design, I found it's a mix of Eastern and Western and modern and ancient sciences. So it brings together the science part as well as some of the more esoteric and spiritual parts. And so I really liked how that combines. It gives you your birth chart, it uses your natal information, and it gives you some information as to your potential. So it's not one of these like, oh, this is who you are in a box and this is how you are classified. It actually gives you the potential of who you can be and what would be more in alignment. Like, what kind of lessons are you here to learn? What's your purpose? What are your strengths? What are your gifts? How are you supposed to make money? What are you meant to communicate with the world? And so it really gives a nice wide overview of your potential. And one of my superpowers, according to that chart, is actually focus. And I'd love to share a little story that that Melanie told me as I was going through DNA Light Up, that really, it rocked my world. Like, this was like a game changer for me. She gave me this example of, let's say, for example, I want to manifest a tree. And so she comes to visit me, she knocks on the door and she says, here you go, here's a plant. Typical me, the old me would say, oh, I wanted to manifest a tree and look now, I only got a plant, and be all dejected about it. And, oh, I didn't get it right. What's wrong with my manifesting skills? Versus, I'm busy manifesting a tree. She knocks at the door and she hands me this beautiful plant. And I say, you would not believe it. I am busy manifesting a tree and here I'm already receiving a plant. So that has really like shifted my world from focusing on where I'm not getting where I want to be, because that's the A-type driver person, the all or nothing person that already wants to be there and the goalpost keeps moving. So you never feel like you're there because you're constantly catching up, constantly looking back to what I haven't done yet versus, oh, look at what I have achieved yet. And so that really was just a game changer. And going into the more spiritual vibrational field is when we connect to the vibration and the feeling and the essence of what we're looking for, we start to attract that. So it's a little bit based on like what I was sharing with you yesterday. Like when you view something in a certain way, you're going to get more of that into your world. So the same with this focus is like, oh, I'm already feeling the essence of, like, this farm is a really great example. When I started visiting here before I moved here a few years ago, I would drive in and it would already feel like home. And not in the sense of like, how am I going to get there? And oh, it's impossible and desperate. I had no other emotion around it other than feeling like home when I got in here. Just allowed that natural feeling to come in. And here I am living in this amazing, this is now my home. And so whether it's we're looking for love or money or business opportunities or certain experiences in our life, when we can start to connect to the essence of that feeling beforehand, that starts attracting more of that into our lives. And so the secret really is to not put that energy of, oh, when am I there yet? Why haven't I done that yet? And so that's where the focus comes in. So where are we focusing? So I've recently realized that if I hyper focus, if I put too much energy on a thing of like, where is it? When's it coming? How's it coming? What else can I do? How can I force? Then I actually sort of push that away, where when I say, okay, for example, I'm going to Everest in September, I want to get fit. I'm going to put some focus on what do I need to eat, what kind of exercises to do. Something that I've really been struggling with is the breathing aspect. So I'm nervous about the altitude. I'm worried that I'm going to be doing this trek, I'm going to be fit enough physically, but this thin air, like this feeling of I won't be able to breathe, that is the thing that I probably fear the most. Of like, I can't train for altitude where I'm at sea level. There's just no way I can prepare. I don't know how my body's going to respond to that. And so I've started doing some different training methods. I did the Wim Hof method, which completely freaked me out because it made me feel really panicked when I do those exercises. So I found a new guy that I'm now following called Chase Mountains, or the channel is called Chase Mountains on YouTube. Go and check it out if you're into fitness and health and specifically hiking or mountain climbing. And he interviewed a guy, I can't remember his name now. He did whole research about the carbon monoxide in the brain and actually helping the brain and the body be more tolerant of being starved of oxygen and training yourself. And so I started doing that and it's made a huge difference. The difference is, one, so I've had focus on it. So I've focused on this health aspect, but it's not been my over focus. I haven't been obsessive about it. So I met another lady the other day who's doing base camp after me, I think about a month after me. She has like typed out her lists and she's obsessing about this thing. And I'm not saying that that's not right for her. For me, I know that when I get into that energy, I become anxious. I start to worry. I start to create a whole bunch of extra energy around it that's not going to serve me. It's not going to help me. So it's finding that balance of, yes, when I focus on something, when I put my mind to it, I can actually make this happen. And that is my superpower. And I can actually help my clients with that as well, to clear the clutter. So I often work with very creative online coaches and consultants and mentors and advisors. People who have all these ideas and they just want to help their clients, and they can do it in so many different ways. So it creates a whole bunch of clutter, and then they're not able to focus on like what is the right for now next step, and they get pulled into what about this part and what about that part, and then it's sometimes difficult for them to structure that and organize that. And so that's where I bring my superpower to the table, being able to help them focus and say, this is the thing to focus on. Let's put it here. And I've seen some incredible results by helping them to organize it in that way and help them to be more effective and efficient in the way that they run their business, in the way they run their life, in the way they run their mind and their body. So the mind-body connection is a really big thing. And so the other superpower that I've found is being able to have these different perspectives. So in human design, we have different ways in which we use energy and how we interact with the world. And one of my gifts that I have in my design is being able to see things from multiple different perspectives rather than a fixed viewpoint. And so that is where my greatest wisdom lies, of having experienced these different perspectives from different people, different cultures, different experiences, and being able to bring that into a situation, to look at it from a different angle. Because oftentimes, and it's one of the exercises we did in DNA Light Up, oftentimes we'll find that it really is just about how we view the situation that makes all the difference in the world. It's like two people can look at an empty room with a chair in, and one can see, like, you've seen these memes where like one people will see like a candlestick holder and the other one will see two people's faces. And it really is about perspective. And so when we can shift our perspective, and it's almost like there's always like a dark and a light side. So we can see the situation as hard and dark and really challenging, or we can see the gifts that situation has brought about. And that's what I've used over, and I know I keep harping on about this because it's been really big changes that's happened in my life. And that's what helped me get through that and be at a space where I can heal and move forward from it, is because I can put a certain perspective on it. I can be in victim mode. And I've met some people who have gone through similar experiences, and 11 years later, as a recent example, it's still a hard thing to deal with because of the perspective around it, where I'm a year down the line and I'm saying, okay, it was tough. It was tough. I'm not gonna minimize what happened, but I can view it as, look at all the empowerment that came out of it. Look at all of the adventures. Look at all of the knowledge and experience and growth that has happened out of that. And that requires a different perspective. And it's not always easy to see this for ourselves. That's why I have a personal mentor and coach who helps me, a spiritual guide, who I can tap into and say, look, I'm getting stuck again. I'm like looping my thoughts over and over. I'm just like hitting a wall because I keep feeling this way, especially if we've got strong emotions and associations with a particular thing. And that person can come in objectively and help us to just see a different perspective or remind us. So she often just reminds me and say, remember, this is an option, or what about this option? So not even necessarily telling me it has to be this way, just putting the options out there and say, what about this, or have you thought of that? And that's made such a huge difference for me. And so that's what I offer my clients as well, is helping them with that focus and that perspective. And that's why I call myself a mindset strategist, because when we look at business, when we look at relationships, when we look at money, when we look at health, when we look at all these different experiences and situations, when we can position our focus and our perspective in the right way, we can move mountains, literally. there is so much we can achieve if we focus in the right way. We take the right aligned, inspired action, not going through the old, here's the formula, here's the steps, this is what I have to do, I've got to just push through, I've just got to do more. It doesn't work. A lot of us are not feeling fulfilled and happy by that. It's time to do things differently, to relax more into that aligned, inspired action. When I feel inspired to do something, it flows so easily. When I have to do something, it can take me hours because I have to drag my feet through it. And again, it's perspective, right? So I could change my perspective around it and say, well, this is actually more enjoyable. So I'll use an example. Like, I love my animals. I've got all the animals, and feeding them sometimes can be a little bit of a chore because it's day in, day out, twice a day. I have to go through this whole feeding routine. And there are days when I just don't feel like it. And there came a point where I actually didn't like, I started resisting it, like, oh, it's this again. And then I made a list. Another wonderful friend from an online friend, Tanya Taylor, she did a little live in her group where she was talking about what you love, what you like, and what you don't like. And so I just sat down and I made the list, and I was like, okay, actually, it's not the whole activity, it's elements of the activity. And then managed to switch a little bit of that up and find a better way. So initially it was like this fight between I'm feeding cats and chickens, and the chickens wants to eat the cat's food, and the cat's all over the show. And so I found a different way to do it where it's now peaceful and everybody's eating together, and it's actually quite joyful actually. But it took a little bit of that change of perspective of saying, okay, well, what element is it? And the same with my business. I've done this throughout the years where my business has these different elements of the wills and the trust and the estate plans. And I just felt at one point that it became really heavy. The business became really heavy. And I was like, well, what is it that I don't enjoy? And I was like, oh, it's actually the drafting the wills. Okay, so I love working with people. I love the structuring and the consulting on it, but the sitting and actually typing it out, that part I didn't enjoy. So I actually hired somebody who's really good with administration and who loves doing that, putting it all together in words and like playing around with it. And she loves it. And so that process now flows. I feel lighter because I don't have to go and do the typing out part. I can just double check it if I want to at the end, but I still get to work with the people and enjoy that interactive part. And it's made all the difference for me. I'm not bogged down. I don't like sit down and say, oh, gotta like do this again today. So that's my little spiel for today. Thank you for joining me. I would love to know what your superpower or powers are. Pop them below in the comments. I've also put the link down below. If you would like to have that complimentary coffee chat with me, let's see what your superpowers are, or potentially how we can work together. So if you would like to see what's possible for you in your business, how we could possibly restructure it, get a little bit of strategy going there for you, and bring more of your gifts into your business, into your world, give yourself permission to be really, truly who you are. I'd love to help you with that. Thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 5 of the Fearless City Challenge.